TitleMatchNetwork.com.
After your first TV taping, did anybody say you're going to be back, or was it pretty much left open?
I think it was. It was so long ago. I think it was one of those deals where they, I guess they got my numbers and everything, and they would call me and say, "Can you make Poughkeepsie?" And I think the other TV taping was in London, Ontario. And God, I would drive like I don't know. My ex-wife now, my wife at the time, we would took like a 7-hour trip to London, Ontario, and then I worked again maybe 2 or 3 matches and. Get a whopping payday. So I think what happened is I guess they had my number, and if they needed me, they called me, and that must have been it, because right there from that day that John introduced me, I'm thinking maybe one of my next matches was not too long after that, because I had some matches with Stud and Patera, and I had it was a tag match. I believe it was a tag match, and I know I'm deviating from your question
okay.
a little
Fine,
bit.
fine.
I have a tendency to
That's
rant.
good,
I'm like Dennis Miller a little bit, but. Yeah, no, they had my number and they called me when they needed me. But what happened was, with John and I don't know who I was. Maybe it was Tony Garea and me and tagging against John and Kenny Patera. So George Scott calls me up and he says, "Jim," he says, "we got a cancellation." And they had beat the shit out of me for about 5 or 6 minutes on TV. Then Kenny Patera pinned me, or it could have been a singles match with Kenny where he beat the hell out of me and then he pinned me. So George Scott calls me and says, "Can you make it down to the Meadowlands Arena?" I said, "Well, shit, I could spit and hit it." I said, "Why not? I'll go for, sure, great. 19,000 people." So I get to the building, and who am I working with? I'm working with Kenny Patera. So Kenny goes to the agent. I don't know who the road agent was at the time. He says, "What are we going? Why are you putting me with Jim? What are we going to do here?" He said, "We just got done, and it hadn't even aired yet." So I says, "We just got done beating him on TV." He says, "You beat him on TV in 5 or 6 minutes." He says, "Now you want us to go out there and do 11 minutes, and the 5 or 6 minutes haven't even aired yet." Well, Kenny came up with the idea. I guess Kenny came up with the idea, or the road agent came up with the idea. Well, do it for 11 minutes. Do it for 10 minutes. Do it for 10 minutes and 45 seconds, and pin him at the 11th minute.
Right.
So that's pretty much what happened. But I think that may have been one of my. It was right at the beginning of my career, and I never really got paid. I did eventually get paid for it, but I was waiting. I kept waiting, and I wasn't going to be one to call the office. Not that early in my career.
Right.
I guess it was a career, or the start of my career. I don't even realize it. Didn't even realize it. So, after about, 3 months of questioning where my pay was, now you're looking at 19,000 people. Now I know what someone should get paid if there's 19,000 people in a arena. I know now.
Right.
I didn't know then. So again, I got a whopping like $75, but it all goes back to, I was just happy to be a part of that whole thing.
What was Ken Patera like to work with in the ring? Easy?
Kenny was easy. I worked with Kenny a few times, and it was a while ago, so it's harder to minute, but he was easy. But he worked, what he does, what a lot of he was easy because he worked he was a big, strong man. So instead of picking you up and slamming, he'd pick you up and toss you, So it was easy, but you had to understand when you're in the ring with a guy like Kenny Patera, that's what it's going to be. So if you can get in a couple of your ideas and a couple of your moves, well, great. But he was easy. I really, he was good because he knew how to work a court. He was a strong man. He was the first man. He was the first man on the planet to press over 500 pounds over his head. So he was going to work a strong man style, and I knew that. I wasn't an idiot. I didn't expect to go out there and do high spots with the guy. I wasn't going to do that. Plus, at that point in my career, I didn't even know what a high spot was. I didn't know what a series of moves was called, But no, he was easy. I can't think of anyone. Well, if you ask me and then we go on further in the interview, I may think of someone that was difficult to work with. I'm sure there was.